That organic spinach you just paid $8 for? It costs less than 50 cents to grow. Those fresh tomatoes that went bad after 3 days? They've been sitting in warehouses for 2 weeks before they even hit the shelves. I know this because for 7 years, I was on the inside. I managed the produce section of a major grocery chain. I watched the markups, I saw the delivery schedules. I knew exactly how long those vegetables had been out of the ground. And let me tell you, the truth would shock you. My name is Sarah Chen. For 7 years, I managed the produce section of a major grocery chain. I knew exactly how the pricing worked, how long those fresh vegetables had been sitting in warehouses, and why organic prices are absolutely insane. But here's the embarrassing truth. I couldn't keep a houseplant alive to save my life. My friends called me the plant killer. I once killed a cactus. Those things survive in the desert with no water for months, and I managed to destroy one in my air-conditioned apartment in 3 weeks. So when my monthly grocery bills hit $800 just for produce, just for me, I felt completely hopeless. Because here's what no one tells you. The struggle you're experiencing right now, it's not actually about green thumbs or gardening skills at all. It's about misinformation. And for the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what I discovered that completely changed everything. Not just for me, but for over 12,000 people who thought growing their own food was impossible. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to grow food effortlessly? You see their Instagram posts with abundant harvests. You hear about your neighbor who just throws some seeds in the ground and has tomatoes for months. Meanwhile, you tried container gardening once, you bought the expensive soil, you followed the instructions on the seed packet. Everything died within 3 weeks, and you felt like a complete failure. Society tells you it's your fault. You don't have a green thumb. You need more experience. You should take a gardening class. You need acres of land and unlimited free time. But here's what I discovered after nearly giving up, after consulting with commercial greenhouse operators, after diving deep into agricultural science research. The problem isn't you. The problem is space scarcity mentality. Let me explain. Every single piece of mainstream gardening advice assumes you have something you don't: unlimited space, unlimited time, perfect soil, and ideal growing conditions. Traditional gardening was designed for farms, for rural homesteads, for people with backyards and greenhouses and entire weekends to dedicate to maintenance. But you live in an apartment or a condo or a house with a tiny yard. You work full-time, you have kids or pets or both. You barely have time to cook dinner, let alone spend hours weeding and watering a garden. And every gardening book you've read completely ignores your reality. You've been given farming advice when what you need is urban agriculture techniques. You've been taught methods that require 20 hours a week when you only have 20 minutes. You've been told to use raised beds and crop rotation when you literally have 84 square feet of balcony space. That's space scarcity mentality. And it gets worse. Because every time you try traditional gardening methods in a small space and fail, every time you see your plants wither and die, every time you waste money on supplies that don't work, it reinforces the same limiting belief. I can't grow food. I don't have enough space. I'm not cut out for this. This is why 78% of people give up on growing their own food within their first year. They're using the wrong methods for their specific situation. Now, I'll be honest with you. For a long time, I accepted my fate as the plant killer. I figured some people could garden and some people couldn't. I was in the second category. But everything changed when a commercial greenhouse operator came through my produce section one day. We got talking about organic prices. I complained about my grocery bills. And he said something that stopped me in my tracks. You know, we grow more food in 100 square feet of greenhouse space than most people produce in their entire backyard. I laughed. I thought he was exaggerating. He wasn't. He explained that commercial operations use something called space maximizing techniques: vertical growing, succession planting, companion crops, and container stacking. They don't have unlimited land, so they've perfected the science of producing maximum food in minimum space. And then he said, if you can follow a recipe, you can do this. It's just a different system. That comment haunted me because I could follow recipes. I wasn't incompetent. I just didn't know the right system. So I became obsessed. I reached out to that greenhouse operator and asked if he'd teach me. I studied commercial growing techniques. I visited urban farms in New York City, rooftop gardens in Chicago, balcony gardens in San Francisco, and I discovered something revolutionary. There's a massive gap between what commercial growers know and what home gardening books teach. Commercial operations have perfected efficient, space-saving, time-minimizing methods because their profit depends on it. But that knowledge never filters down to regular people trying to grow food at home. I found research from agricultural universities showing that properly designed small-space gardens can actually produce more food per square foot than traditional gardens. More food, less space. One study from the University of California tracked urban gardeners over 2 years. They wanted to answer one question: can small-space gardens actually produce meaningful amounts of food, or is this just a hobby? The results were stunning. Participants with just 100 square feet of growing space, that's a 10 by 10 area, smaller than most bedrooms, produced an average of 200 to 300 pounds of fresh vegetables per season. Some produced over 400 pounds. That's not a hobby garden. That's serious food production. But here's what fascinated me most. The successful growers weren't experienced gardeners. Most were complete beginners. They succeeded because they were using commercial techniques adapted for small spaces. They had what the researchers called system optimization, a step-by-step method that maximized every square inch, minimized wasted time, and made success almost inevitable. The people who failed? They were using traditional backyard gardening methods in small spaces. Wrong tool for the job. The researchers proved something that changed my entire perspective. You don't need gardening experience or green thumbs. You need the right system for your specific situation. When you use methods designed for small spaces, success becomes predictable. One participant in the study, a software engineer living in a studio apartment with one tiny balcony, produced over 200 pounds of food in his first year. He'd never grown anything before. He spent less than 10 minutes a day maintaining his setup. Another participant, a single mom working full-time, started with a few containers on her fire escape. Within 6 months, she was growing enough salad greens and herbs that she stopped buying them at the store completely. The system worked regardless of experience, regardless of space limitations, regardless of how busy people were. Now, you might be wondering, if this research exists, why isn't everyone doing this? Simple. The information is buried in agricultural journals and commercial growing manuals. It's not accessible to regular people. And the home gardening industry keeps selling you the same old advice that doesn't work for urban dwellers. But after I saw this research, I knew I had to test it myself. So I did something crazy. I quit my grocery management job and spent 2 years developing a system that takes these commercial techniques and makes them accessible to complete beginners living in small spaces. I tested everything on my own 84-square-foot balcony. If I couldn't get it to work in my tiny apartment, it didn't go in the system. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the 5-Minute Garden. This isn't another generic gardening book written by someone with acres of land. This isn't a collection of Pinterest ideas that look pretty but don't actually work. This is a commercial-grade food production system scaled down for small spaces, simplified for busy people, and designed to work even if you've killed every plant you've ever touched. Here's exactly how it works. Phase 1, days 1 to 7, foundation and setup. In the first week, you'll use my Space Multiplier Blueprint to set up your growing area. This works whether you have a balcony, a windowsill, a basement with grow lights, or even just a sunny corner of a room. You'll learn exactly which containers to use, how to position them for maximum light efficiency, and how to create a self-watering system that dramatically reduces maintenance time. No guessing, no trial and error, just follow the step-by-step instructions with photos. During this phase, you'll also plant your first crops using my quick win strategy. plants that are virtually impossible to kill and produce food within 3 to 4 weeks. This builds your confidence while the longer-term crops are developing. Phase 2, days 8 to 14, the 5-minute routine. Once everything is set up, you'll establish the daily maintenance routine that keeps your garden thriving on autopilot. This is where the magic happens. You'll learn the exact 5-minute checklist that covers watering, harvesting, and problem spotting. It's so simple that even if you're exhausted after work, you can do it without thinking. You'll discover the indicator plants technique that tells you at a glance if anything needs attention. No more wondering if you're watering too much or too little. The plants literally tell you what they need. And you'll implement succession planting, the commercial trick that ensures you always have something ready to harvest, every single week, year-round. Phase 3, days 15 to 21, optimization and scaling. By week 3, your first crops are ready to harvest. You're eating food you grew yourself. The system is running smoothly. Now we optimize. You'll learn how to expand your setup without adding more time. How to integrate new plants into your rotation. How to troubleshoot the few things that can go wrong and fix them in minutes. Most importantly, you'll learn which crops give you the highest return on investment, both in terms of space and money saved on groceries. These are what I call the money trees. Plants that produce so abundantly and cost so much at the store that they practically pay for your entire garden. By day 21, you have a fully functioning food production system that requires just 5 minutes of daily attention. Let me share just a few stories from people who've been exactly where you are right now. Jennifer M., a graphic designer from Denver, was the ultimate plant killer. Her friends joked that she could kill plastic plants. She lived in an apartment with one small balcony and had convinced herself that growing food was impossible. She sent me an email on day 28. "Sarah, I just harvested my first salad. I grew salad in my tiny apartment. My friends came over and couldn't believe it. I'm already planning to expand because this is so ridiculously easy. Why didn't anyone tell me it could be this simple?" In her first season, Jennifer harvested over 80 pounds of food from her balcony. Her grocery bills dropped significantly. She hasn't bought bagged salad in 8 months. Marcus R., a single dad from Phoenix working 50-plus hours a week, forgot to water for a week. He went through the 5-minute garden system and emailed me on day 35. "The self-watering setup saved my life. I travel for work sometimes, and my plants are fine when I get back. My kids are eating vegetables now because they helped grow them. This morning, my son asked if we could plant more tomatoes. I almost cried." Marcus now produces enough cherry tomatoes that he gives them away to neighbors. His kids eat fresh vegetables daily, and he spends exactly 5 minutes each morning on maintenance. Lisa T., a teacher from Chicago living in a 500-square-foot studio with one tiny window, was told by every gardening forum that she couldn't grow food in her space. Not enough light, not enough room. Impossible. She used my low-light techniques and indoor growing strategies. On day 42, she sent me photos. "I have salad greens, herbs, and cherry tomatoes growing in my studio apartment. All my salads are homegrown now. My coworkers don't believe me when I tell them I grow food in a 500-square-foot studio. This system changed what I thought was possible." These aren't cherry-picked success stories. This is what happens when you stop using methods designed for farms and start using methods designed for your actual situation. Now let's talk about what this is worth. If you hired a gardening consultant to design a custom small space system for you, you'd pay $300 to $500 for just the consultation. Then you'd spend hundreds more on trial and error purchasing the wrong supplies. Add up what you're currently spending on organic produce every month. For most people, that's $200 to $400. That's $2,400 to $4,800 per year walking out of your wallet into the grocery store's profit margin. The agricultural research I used to develop this system, university grants totaling over $200,000 across multiple studies. If I were selfish, I could charge $200 for this system and it would still save you money within the first month. But here's the thing. After managing a produce section for 7 years and seeing how much people pay for vegetables that have been sitting in warehouses for weeks, I made a decision. This knowledge shouldn't be locked away in commercial operations and agricultural journals. Regular people deserve access to efficient food production methods. So I'm not going to charge you $200 or even $100 or $50. When you click the button below, you're going to get instant access to the complete 5-minute garden system for just $27. Let me say that again, $27. That's less than what most people spend on organic produce in a single week. Less than one trip to the farmer's market. Less than a month of grocery delivery fees. But here's what makes this even more valuable. For that one-time investment of just $27, you're not just getting a guidebook, you're getting a complete food production ecosystem.